think is the number one thing that stands between most people living their dream? These are all great answers, and they're all wrong. See, I used to work for an internet company, and I wanted to go full-time into professional speaking. That was my goal. That was my dream. Raise your hand if you have a goal or a dream. Raise your hand if you want to do anything in life. So I went to the vice president of this company, and I said, look, John, I'm going to be leaving because it's always been my dream to be a full-time professional speaker. He said, that's your dream, Craig? I said, yes, it is. He said, well, that's great. I really admire you for having one, but you can't leave. I said, hold on, what do you mean I can't leave? He said, well, Craig, we've been thinking about it, and we're going to raise your salary up to this. I said, John, this is not a financial decision. This is about my dream. In fact, I call this a dream decision. But how about if we raise your salary up to this? I said, this is not a financial decision. This is a dream decision. Do you know he raised it 4 times? I kid you not. He kept saying, we're going to raise your salary to this. I said, this is not a financial decision. This is a dream decision. He said, okay, Craig, how about if we raise your salary to well above $100,000? I said, dreams are overrated. I said, but John, before I say yes, I got to go home and talk to my wife. So I went home to my wife. I said, honey, I don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I do? And my wife looked up at me with her big brown eyes and said, take the money, fool. But if you've been sitting beside my wife and me just a few moments later, you would have heard her say something that can absolutely change your life. She said, Craig, this is all you've ever wanted. Ever since we met, this is all you've ever talked about. I don't care how much they try to compensate you, your dream is not for sale. The number one thing that stands between most people living their dreams is not something bad, it's something good that they settle for. A good job, a good relationship, a good life. I looked at my wife, I said, see, girl, that's why I married you. My dream is not for sale. That's what you said, right? And I walked back in there the next day, and I looked that vice president in his eyes, and I said to him, my wife said my dream is not for sale. And I left. And that very year, I spoke over 160 times in 44 states and 5 countries, and I'm happy to say I've been running my mouth ever since. No matter how good you are at what you do, don't let the good get in the way of the best. Just remember the words of my wife, your dream is not for sale.